Hi, my name is Yona. I'm the after school leader at Field Teen Center, and today I'm going to be talking about Blackbirds in the Sky by Brandy Colbert, a nonfiction account of the Tulsa Race Riot of 1921 and the events leading up to it. I listened to it as an audiobook on the Libby app. You might already know Brandy Colbert from some of her fiction works like Little and Lion, The Revolution of Bertie Randolph, and several other short stories and novels. I really like her, and I think that she's very clear and direct and easy to understand. It's true in her fiction, and it's true here too. It's a tough story, but a very important one, and it's complicated. It's not just about the events that happened that day or even the week leading up to it, but it involves the history of the state of Oklahoma. It involves the Trail of Tears and the removal of several Native American tribes from their homelands and relocation to Oklahoma. It involves lynching as an institution all over the country, not only in Oklahoma. And it involves relations between Black folks and white folks in the United States. So it covers a lot of different topics to explain this one very specific incident. So if you've read other books about the history of racism in the United States, this one is definitely still very much worth looking at. I think a notable example is Stamped, which was a really big deal when it came out, is still an incredibly valuable, wonderful book. And it does mention the Tulsa Race Riot rather briefly, but this book goes into a lot more detail, and I think the two complement each other very nicely. I also really appreciate this book because earlier this year I read Dreamland Burning, which is a fiction account that talks about both the night of the Tulsa Race Riot and 100 years later, a girl who's experiencing some of the aftermath. I thought it was a great story, but it's also written by a white woman. And I think that if you're going to read a story like that, you have to pair it with an actual historical account. And I think it helps knowing that this story is written by a Black woman. The book gets its name from the account of one of the survivors of the riot who, from the other side of the city, saw all of the smoke and ash in the air and thought it looked like black birds. So as you might imagine, this book does go to some very heavy places. It talks about lynchings, it talks about mob violence, it talks about just bad things happening. So I guess it goes with a trigger warning, but I feel like it's just an important book that you should read anyway. I also don't feel like it's especially graphic or salacious in nature. The intent of the book is to inform, and these are real things that happened that I definitely the author think are more important to know about than to be sheltered from. So I really recommend reading it, even if you have to read it in little small doses. I read it in all one sitting. It's a pretty short book, and I can't say I enjoyed it because it's not like fun, but I learned a lot and I found it interesting. The last thing I really appreciated about this book is that in addition to explaining the history, she does a really nice job of proving that although this happened about 100 years ago now, it's still very relevant to some of the events that we're seeing happen on the news today and what the future of this country might look like. So I think now is a great time to read this book. I think it would be a good resource for using in a paper. If you have a class on American history, I think it would be a great teaching resource. And even if you're not an educator and you're not a student, I think it's just an important book, easy to follow, quality research, and I highly recommend it. If you're looking for other book recommendations or if you'd like to talk to us about a book that you've read, you can get in touch with us either in our Instagram DMs or you can email us. And the links for both of those are going to be in our description box. So thank you for watching and have a great day.